Welcome God of War fans! My name is Shayne Static, and this is the Greek gods versus the Norse gods. So we're literally comparing the Norse gods that we've already seen and kind of heard of with the Greek gods that we've already fought in previous games. So please leave a like if you did enjoy your time here, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. Here we go. So I've gotten a lot of requests to do this video, where I'm comparing the Norse gods of God of War to the Greek gods of God of War, which I really like this idea. The person who had the idea for this video is untestified, which I am more than happy to fulfill his request. So without me talking too much more, let's jump into comparing the God of War gods. But just a fair warning, if you have not played God of War 2018 yet, I'm going to be talking about a lot of key moments, and there's going to be a ton of spoilers in this video. So, you have been warned. So let's start off this video with the big bad of the new God of War that came out in 2018, which is Odin. Yeah, we don't see Odin within the game, but we do know a hell of a lot about him, mainly because of the boat stories we have with Mimir. So Odin is obsessed with Ragnarok, and obsessed with not dying in the twilight of the gods. I can't really blame the guy too much, but he does go about it pretty harshly. For example, having Thor kill almost all the Jotun in Midgard to potentially stop their uprising during Ragnarok. He is also consumed by his pursuit of knowledge, where he even hung himself for 9 nights from the world tree Yggdrasil with his spear within his side. Also when he plucked out his eye without a moment's notice so he could have a drink of Mimir's well. But we all know it was just laced with a ton of shrooms, so Odin thought he saw a ton of stuff, which he probably did. So to say Odin will do just about anything to get what he desires is a complete understatement. But who does he compare with the best from the Greek pantheon? Well, I think this choice is kinda obvious, but my choice is Zeus. Not just because they are the quote-unquote kings of their own realm, but their personalities match up pretty well in my opinion. Zeus, being consumed by the evils that lurked within Pandora's box, led him down a very destructive and paranoid path. Zeus was paranoid because he was overly power-hungry, and ruling over the realm of men was what he cared about the most. Seeing that Kratos matched the description of the marked warrior foretold by the fates drove him even more mad, seeing that the marked warrior was the one who was going to dethrone him. Well, he also thought the marked warrior was Deimos, Kratos' brother, but that's a completely different story, probably for another day, not real sure. Anyway, it's the greed, the paranoia, and the overwhelming desire to stay as the quote-unquote king of their pantheon is why I chose to match these two gods together. You can kinda also say Odin is comparable to Athena, which Athena is the goddess of knowledge, and Odin really likes his knowledge. But I think I'm going to stick with Zeus for this one. The next god in the Norse pantheon that I want to talk about is Magi. So Magi is a minor boss and god within the God of War 2018 game. But his father is not minor at all, being the god of thunder himself, Thor. Now Magi is kind of an asshole and only out to find a worthy opponent to fight. Well, he eventually did find Kratos and Atreus, but this is besides the point. Magi always seems ready for a fight. This might be due to him having a bloodthirsty nature, or him trying to impress his father to hopefully inherit the mighty hammer Mjolnir. You can see this when Kratos refuses to back down to Magi, which you can see a smile come across his face as though he is happy to get a fight. So who do I think Magi most compares to? Well, in my opinion, the god from the Greek pantheon that he most closely resembles is Ares. Now Ares is the main boss in the original God of War, and can be summarized as someone who is most happy when he is destroying cities and being constantly in battle. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Ares also believed that loving one's family makes you weak, which we do see in the original God of War when he makes Kratos kill his own family in a blind rage to potentially make him a great warrior. So in looking at these two side by side, they are very quite similar. Ares can be described as violent, cruel, full of hate, and kind of full of himself. But Shayne, wouldn't Thor be more comparable to Ares than Magi? Well, they do seem to have similarities as well, but I think that there is another god that fits him a little bit better, so stay tuned until the end because that is when we are discussing Thor. Now let's talk about Baldur, the main antagonist of God of War 2018. Baldur is the best tracker in Asgard, bar none, and is impervious to any kind of physical or magical attack due to the curse or quote-unquote protective spell, however you want to look at it, cast by his mother Freya. But at the same time, this spell robbed him of feeling anything physically, as well as drove Balder almost to the brink of madness and arrogance. Being unable to feel anything or die, even for that matter, poisoned Balder's mind because of the years and years of fearlessness and lack of personal connection have left him in a constant cycle of hatred, arrogance, self-loathing, and maybe a little bit of hint of psychopathy. Really nice guy, huh? So who does he most closely resemble in the Greek pantheon? Well, to be honest, I actually had a little bit of a hard time with this one, because I do not believe he matches perfectly with anybody. Mythology-wise, he would probably be more relatable to Apollo, because Apollo being the god of light, and Balder being the same for the Norse realm, at least in some sources. But this is a God of War video, so let's stick to that. I think Balder can be closely identified to Poseidon, actually. So, hear me out. He is very similar to Balder. They both feel the same amount of anger. Well, Balder mostly hates his mother Freya, but we actually do not know if he hates Odin as well, but that's up for debate. Maybe we'll see more about it in future games. But Poseidon, before he was infected by anger that escaped from Pandora's box, he was actually a happy and just ruler of his realm of the seas. Probably how Balder might have been before his curse. But after Poseidon was infected, he became consumed with rage and had several quote-unquote pissy talks with Kratos about challenging the gods. But despite all his rage, he seems to handle the evil Pandora's box much better than the rest of his family, even apologizing to his princess for being angry. So it's in their rage and their anger that builds within them. That's why I linked and compared these two together. Now, let's talk about Freya. Now, Freya, when we first meet her in God of War 2018, she was known just as the Witch of the Woods, but later we found out from Mimir who she really was. Freya is married, or at least was, to Odin. But after so long together and Odin learning the ways of her Vanir magic, he cast her out of Asgard to remain in Midgard while stripping her of her place among the Valkyries, which she was the queen, and robbed her of her warrior spirit. What a dick, right? But she does hate herself for the curse that she put on her son Balder, thinking it was the only way to save him from the prophecy of his own death. But after Kratos kills Balder at the end of God of War 2018, she shows her vengeful side, saying,
I will rain down every agony, every violation imaginable upon you. I will parade your cold body from every corner of every realm and feed your soul to the vilest filth in hell. That is my promise.
He saved your life.
He robbed me of everything.
So who do you think Freya is most comparable to in the Greek pantheon? If you ask me, I think she is a lot like Athena. Kinda makes sense when you look at it for a second. Before she did a complete 180 between the second God of War and the third, she was actually known to be very selfless and compassionate about the other gods of Olympus. She loved her family, especially her father Zeus. She even loved her brother Kratos. Yes, she is his brother. But in God of War 3, she became very power hungry and wanted to replace Zeus as the sole ruler of humanity by pushing Kratos towards his path of vengeance. So looking at Freya and Athena side by side, they do have a lot of similarities. They both love their family, with Freya having love for Balder and assuming the other Vanir gods, and Athena as her father, Zeus, and her other siblings of Olympus. They are both known as great warriors as well, but their biggest commonality with each other is their search for vengeance. Freya promising revenge after Kratos kills her son Balder, and Athena personally motivates Kratos on his path to vengeance against the gods of Olympus. I think they are pretty comparable to one another. Do you? Next up from the Norse pantheon I want to talk about is Modi. Modi is the brother of Magni and another son of Thor. Now Modi has a huge mouth on him, bigger than the measly mace that he carries, constantly talking trash the entire fight with Magni against Kratos and Atreus. He does this all the way up till his end when he gets stabbed in the neck by Atreus himself. There is really a cool theory stating that he still might be alive, but that could be a discussion for another day. But just like his brother, Modi is out for approval from his father, but seems to always be in Magni's shadow. But after the death of Magni at the hands of Kratos, Modi runs away in fear of being killed as well. I can't really blame him for this, but this is kind of looked at as cowardice in the Norse realm, and there is also no glory in beating a weaker opponent, but glory can be given by taking on a strong opponent. His cowardice can be seen again in Tyr's temple, when he sneaks up on Kratos and Atreus and blasts Kratos with lightning. But Kratos overcomes this, and Modi, knowing he couldn't win, runs off again. So who do I think Modi most resembles? Well, I think Modi most represents the demigod Theseus from God of War 2. Theseus is the son of Poseidon, and a big follower of the Sisters of Fate, even looking after the steeds of time and holding on to the Horsekeeper's key. Now when Kratos confronts Theseus, Theseus calls him a weakling, because he lost his godhood and his powers when he sunk them into the blades of Olympus when he was fighting the Colossus of Rhodes. Now he is just mostly all talk and so almighty, until he sees how powerful Kratos really is. Theseus, after being overwhelmed by Kratos, knows that he is going to be killed, so he retreats and summons minotaurs to do his dirty work. Which is kind of funny because in mythology Theseus kills the minotaur, but anyway, this is the kind of thing that we see from Modi when he retreats several times during God of War. They both talk a big game but obviously can't back it up, so this is why I placed them together. So I can go on and on about other gods from the Norse realm and relate them to the Greek realm, like Hel and Hades being matched up because they're both lords of the underworld or whatever else. But at this time, we really don't know a ton about the gods in the Norse realm. So maybe I can do an updated video on the comparisons between the Norse and Greek gods. But let's get to the god I am sure many of you have come to see. So the last god I'm going to talk about in this video from the Norse realm is the god of thunder himself, Thor. Yes, Thor only shows up during Atreus' dream or vision, but we have learned a lot about him from Ymir and his stories, just like we learned a lot about Odin. So Thor can be pretty much summed up as hateful, cruel, violent, brutal. I can go on for days. He shows no mercy for his enemies, especially with the Jotun, which he is half Jotun, but that's besides the point. From killing almost every Jotun in Midgard, to even invading Jotunheim from time to time, just before the Jotunheim Realm Tower was hidden by Tyr. But through this, he still has a huge amount of loyalty to his family and his worshippers. He is overly loyal to Odin and deeply loved his brother Balder, which I'm sure he's pretty pissed about Kratos and Atreus killing him. So he does have a lot of similarities with Ares, I'll give you that. But there is someone that I think he lines up with a bit better. In ancient times, he is actually compared to this deity very regularly. This god, or demigod, is Hercules, or as they call him in Greece, Hercules. So, hear me out. Hercules thinks very highly of himself and is very quick to anger, kinda like Thor. He is also the strongest of all the demigods in the Greek pantheon, especially when he uses the Nemean Kessis gauntlets that he got after defeating the Nemean lion, which was a part of his 12 labors. And just like Thor, he is a brute, but just like Thor again, he has a huge amount of loyalty to his family, especially Zeus, who is always looking for his approval. So their amount of loyalty to their family, but also their brute strength and their brute anger is why I put these two deities together. So who do you think are comparable between the two pantheons? And do you have any theories that you haven't seen on YouTube yet? If you leave your theory in the comments and are publicly subscribed to me, I will possibly make a video about it and give you full credit, just like I did with this one and several other of my subscribers. This one, once again, by Untestified. So leave your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss it. My name is Shayne Static, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.